Yes, I am late, and I accept being late. Had a long recording session, so yes, I am late. But it's fine. This is not the right community post. This is my favorite picture of the year. I don't know who made it, but credit to him. It makes me laugh. I'll be there no matter what. Genuinely funny. I see it on Twitter all the time whenever anyone posts anything. Well, obviously not whenever, but, genuine people post stuff. It does make me laugh quite a lot. Just, I will be there no matter what. Oh, it's so good. It's a good one, honestly. Uh, but yeah, it's been a long week, which I'll be happy to close the books on this week. Is this thing on? That's the real question. Oh, days. Good morning, Vietnam. Ugh, that is a scary place. Nam ain't the one you want to be in. No, I've heard Vietnam's actually quite nice, to be fair. My brother's been there, so it looks hot as hell. So definitely not a place on my bucket list. That's for sure. But I've heard it's nice. The late Anthony Bourdain, he loved Vietnam. I think that was one of his favorite places in the world to go to. He said he loved it. The street food, stuff like that. He sounded like he really enjoyed it. So maybe it is a cool place to go. I don't know. But I watched the Top Gear episode of Vietnam. It looked really cool. So yeah, maybe it should be on the list of countries to visit. Oh, I see. That's embarrassing. Uh, and now I don't know. Should I just turn off the stream? Do I delete this? I don't know. I don't know what to do now. But anyways, as I said, I will be there no matter what. All right. Let's leave it there then. Didn't understand a reference. That's probably before my time, because I'm not a boomer. Okay, boomer. Anyways, I will be there no matter what. My favourite picture of this year, no doubt. I think my other favourite one is Another Clown Humbled, but I can't find that one. I've had a look on the internet. I can't find it, but it's got the same format as this, and yeah, it makes me laugh. So someone had a question about Harry Kane, and it makes me want to play the "You Just Got Kane" song. So if you want to hear the "You Just Got Kane" song, which is one of England's finest songs, you let me know. If not, I will leave it, because my friend, yeah. Anyways, if you want to hear the "You Got Kane" song, I will play it. But if you don't, then that's fine. It's one of England's greatest videos. But yeah, so someone asked, yeah, if you want to ask like questions, like general questions, I don't mind, as long as they're like safe for work and things like that. Excuse me. As long as I've got like, expertise on it. Like if you ask me about, I know, the political situation in North Korea or something, I'm not gonna have answers for you. But if it's something on like football, like an easy one, like my opinion of Harry Kane joining Bayern Munich, I think is a great move. Both for Kane, I think England's captain going abroad, it does show you that English players are willing to go abroad more. We've seen like Jude Bellingham and stuff go, which was good. But also, I think for Kane, Bayern Munich needs a striker. No, I've not seen Phil's latest video. Is it bad? Do you want me to react to it live? I don't know. I'll do it live if you guys want me to. But yeah, no, I think it's a great move for Kane. I think Bayern needed a striker desperately since Lewandowski left. They got a striker. He's very good. Kane easily one of the best strikers in the world. So great move for Kane, great move for Bayern Munich, and it shows you Bayern Munich have got a lot of pulling power. People underestimate the Bundesliga, people underestimate Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich for me are probably the top five clubs in the world. It'd probably be Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich. Potentially Bayern Munich, even fourth in that list. Yeah, so yeah, great move. 45 minutes. Is it that bad? Is it about the voting thing? Is it that bad? Genuinely, is it that bad? All right. If we get towards the end of the stream, maybe I'll give it a watch. I don't know. If anyone else has watched it, let me know. So yeah, good move for Harold, young Harry Kane. Please do a live reaction. I rewatched you on Sunday Max show last week. Okay. All right, hold up. All right, I will ask the people. You know, I'll be fair. I will ask the people. Should I watch the Phil video on stream? Okay. See result. All right. We'll give that a minute because I've got another question to answer. Right, I've given you the options, so you know you guys vote. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. It won't be my best work because it'll be live. But yeah, you know, you guys let me know. I'm a man of the people champion. I'll address that in a minute because I saw, yeah, probably my fault for being vague, but I wasn't. It was not a good week, and I'll explain. I'll explain why in a few minutes. I just read the comments. That is, to be fair, the comments are lit, so I don't blame you for that. So Ellie saying I'll be watching, do whatever content maybe. So Cass has a question, big economic question. My background is not economics, so don't kill me if I get this wrong. Political and human implications of the collapse of British manufacturing of from the 1960s to post-Brexit Britain. So post-Brexit and current plummet, not just GDP but skilled manufacturing jobs, role of Thatcher, Blair and current Tories. If researching online, please note that Kitson paper, he taught me at one time, foundings are completely contradicted by the graphs. Planned destruction of skilled working class, down from 30% to 8% and falling. Trade union membership also falling steeply from 2021, from well-paid permanent to scrapping a living in service work, from trade surpluses to 89 billion deficit. So, with that, Thatcher decimated British manufacturing. British manufacturing was protected, I think, by large tariffs pre us joining the what was it called, the EEC? I think it was the precursor to the EU. And once those things dropped, Britain couldn't compete. That's what it was. British manufacturing was way behind the curve compared to other countries, our European counterparts, the Americans and the Japanese. We were so far behind, but we were protected by things like tariffs, I believe. And so what happened was Thatcher transitioned us more towards a service economy, which was a chump move. And so what that meant was it was the destruction of skilled manufacturing with, you know, union membership down, her crushing the unions. But also the fact that these companies weren't ready to compete with European companies and, you know, international competitors, and they were bought up very cheaply. There was no protection. You know, that's something the founder of ARM CPUs talked about, where he talked about, you know, semiconductor companies being brought out very cheap by foreign kind of competitors, and the fact that they couldn't cope. That was a problem. No worries, you're not that late. I started late, so it's all good. But you know. The thing with skilled manufacturing is that we still had it even post-Thatcher when it comes to pharmaceuticals and other industries. The problem now is Brexit has killed it off because it's just too expensive for manufacturers to deal with to deal with us. Basically, it's like you know, other kind of EU countries can offer alternatives, but the problem is with Britain, anything that comes here that's imported into Britain from the EU faces customs fees and potential tariffs, basic checks. Anything that comes out of Britain faces full checks. And so what that means is if you're trying to import anything from Britain, it's not very cost effective to do so unless you have to do so. Whereas if you can find alternatives or even build your own alternative, you're in the money. We saw OEMs, so these are like ones who make smaller devices. Effectively, you know, they just decide to leave Britain or stop altogether because it's not worth their time. These large manufacturers, not worth their time to be here. So yeah, I don't watch it. Let's see. So sorry, it's not the best answer when it comes to British manufacturing. But you know, it's been on decline for a long time, and I think that's partially because Britain just wasn't ready to compete with the world. We protected ourselves with, you know, tariffs and other things, and so when it became time to compete, we weren't ready, and so it was kind of a forced transition in that sense. and British manufacturing was not protected at all by the state. Thatcher basically went with the, if he dies mentality. It's not sink or swim. It's time to die, and a lot of businesses died, I think. And so that meant manufacturing left this country, because if you're a big French conglomerate, like the car makers are, if you can set up shop in France, which you might get state aid for it, or Spain, for example, where it's considerably cheaper now to manufacture in Spain compared to Britain, or even if you went to Slovenia or kind of an eastern country, right? You have no loyalty to the country. You have no loyalty to the UK. So there's nothing to stop you from transitioning over to go to those countries. So it makes sense kind of why manufacturing died on multiple levels here. They weren't ready to compete. They were bought out on the cheap, and they moved the manufacturing, which made a lot of sense. So it doesn't surprise me, that the trade unions breaking, the lack of encouragement to join a union, the change in employment laws, kind of the prevalence of agency contracts, things like that, and it was a bad backdrop. But I think Brexit's the kind of death knell in British manufacturing for the most part. We are going to struggle massively, especially because the EU is going to look to build as many things as they can in house, within the EU, and because at the end of the day, the EU is entering into a massive trade war, not a trade war, but a kind of trade conflict of sorts with the US. So the EU are going to look to massively ramp up their own manufacturing, because they know if they don't, the US will take over. And so what that means is Britain has been cut out of that, and it's not anyone's fault but our own. I hope that answers your question, Cass, anyways, as best as I could. For a question I'm no expert in, so maybe I shouldn't answer that question. I don't know. Whoops. Anyways, some people put no, some people put yes. It's 67% yes, so I guess, shall I let it run for a bit longer? Alright then. Let's see. The worst thing is I watch his videos on 1.5 speed, so it's going to hurt my ears. Is it this one?
Hi, my name's Phil.
Is it this video? Can someone just confirm it for me quickly? Is it this one? Just quickly, someone just confirm. Is this the video? The why you can't vote for a perfect electoral match? All right. Geez, Joni's here though. Big up Joni.
I like talking about
Sorry, let me just turn my headphones back on.
politics, and in this video, prompted by a comment on another video, I'd like to discuss the choices that a lot, even the majority of voters,
I'm going to pause it a lot, so just be ready for that.
Face, and how nobody really has the option of voting for what they want. I don't even mean in the UK's unrepresentative elective system either. It's just the nature of democracy. You can't vote for what you want. So it very frustrates people when they think they should be able to. What you can vote for is what you least oppose. But first,
it's not really true, is it? If you live in a proportional representation system, you can vote for something as closely as what you want. So, it's kind of, it's more from the perspective of a first past the post rather than a PR. So that doesn't make sense, his first point there.
If you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel.
Rather not, mate.
So I got a comment which went along the lines of asking if a Labour government was really the answer to, in this case, Brexit problems. Now, on this...
I mean, they're not the answer. We know that to be true.
This occasion, it was about Brexit, could easily be about any number of other policy areas. Take Brexit, for example. If you are aware of the actual impacts of Brexit and equally aware that although some can be improved in line with Labour's policies, we cannot get back the competitive edge we once had outside the single market and customs union, and especially if you are...
He makes this weird kind of thing. He doesn't say outside the EU. He talks about the single market and customs union. It's a bit strange.
If you know someone who has a business, or if you have a business yourself that is not going to survive the next 2 years outside the single market, of course there's a real urgency there. And you will absolutely not see Labour as ticking your boxes on Brexit because, well, we need to get back in the single market. They're saying we're not going to.
Well, I mean, we can't get back into the single market. So, just make that point. Literally, I've given you the answer to when people say, why don't we just rejoin the single market? I've literally done all the homework for you. And the best thing is, I presented it to you in that debate we had. So why not just say it? I don't get it.
And I have argued that what Labour are proposing is what any government who wants to rejoin the EU would have to begin doing anyway. As far as I'm concerned, Labour are on the same journey.
It's not really, seeing as Labour have been a bit wishy-washy on dynamic alignment in anything outside of getting a veterinary agreement. Outside of agriculture, they on manufacturing they haven't said they're going to go for alignment with the EU, whether that's officially or unofficially. In terms of services, they've said they're going to make some sort of British standard. So are we going to align with kind of the EU standards on things like Solvency 2, or are they going to deregulate? We don't know. So, this argument he's making here is a bit disingenuous.
They just claim that they will stop short of the ultimate destination. My attitude is that as long as they're going in that right direction, what is the problem? It's not like the Conservatives are. They're going away. And if Labour do at any point stop and go no further, we can argue then. But that's by the by. The point...
So we give them all the power, and when they don't do the thing we want, then we moan. Like, no, surely we should tell them now this is what we want, and if you don't give it, then good luck winning.
The point is that Labour are presenting...
He really is, Anna. Do you know what I mean? I took time out of my day to educate this brother, but it just doesn't seem to work.
Policies which won't actually meet with the approval of anyone, particularly those who take the time to understand politics. But neither is any party, and it couldn't actually be any other way. The leaders of every political party with representation in Westminster, they're pursuing policies which even they don't think are the best in all cases. The nature of democracy is that if you want to win, you have to do what your voters want. And I also understand that relative...
I mean, sure, but if the voters want to bring back the death penalty into Nuka country, should Labour be pushing that as well? At some point, you've got to at least try to educate the electorate on some things. You can't just run with the electorate on everything they say. At some point, you do have to try and educate them on things like the fact that the economy is not a household. You do have to fight back and stance up against the media and other kind of people. Like, you can't just be like, well, the voters want to bring back the death penalty. I guess we don't really have a choice. You look stupid doing stuff like that. Because most of the time, the voters don't even know what they want because they change their mind. I've had a bit of a tit for tat with Phil over a written codified constitution. Yeah.
Relatively few voters support either Labour or the Conservatives, even though the vast majority vote for one or other in each general election. I'm a Labour supporter, not because I just prefer them to the Conservatives, but because I actually align with Labour values. If you had 5 parties, or with roughly equal shares of the vote, I would still be a Labour member. Some people will ask how I can support Labour under all of these different leaders, from Blair to Corbyn and everything in between, because they're all so very different. But it's because they actually promote the same basic policy outcomes. They all had different ideas about how to...
They don't really promote the same policy outcomes, not really. It's I suppose in theory you could try and argue that, but in reality they're not going to reach it. Things like PFI contracts, they didn't help the NHS, not really. That was the problem. So, to argue that they're going for the same outcome is not really true. They're just trying to do different things, I think. They can argue they're trying to go for the same outcomes, but, we can both pretend we're going into the same location, but if I take a completely different route to you, I might not be going where you're going or where I claim I'm going. So with things like PFI contracts and other things, especially with Blair's outlook on things like foreign policy, we're very different to Corbyn's. So it just doesn't, his argument's just not... I just don't think that they make sense. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
achieve.
Oh, a single transferable vote is decent. Yeah, that's a system I like. So yeah, maybe if I had a transferable vote system, I could do, say, Lib Dems first, and then the Greens, and then Labour, or something like that. At the moment,
them, but I worry less about methods. And they're very different in some cases. I align more with some than others when it comes to the vehicle, but they all pursued the same outcomes.
Again, I think that's very disingenuous to say, like, they want, Corbyn and Blair went for the same outcomes. I don't think that's really that true, to be honest.
Anyone who has spent any time listening to me knows I am all about the outcomes. What are you going to achieve? I don't care what you want to achieve. What are you going to achieve? Care nothing for people's motivations.
Again, I think it's important to talk about aims and objectives. So you can have the same objectives, which are the long-term ones, I think it is. But if you have different aims, you're not going to achieve those objectives, not really. And I think that's one of the problems.
Can be motivated to do good and still cause untold suffering. I don't care what they wanted to do if what they actually did was create suffering. Piss off out of politics. You're bad at it. I prefer a bad person being forced to do the right thing because public pressure forces them than a good person who makes things worse because although their heart is in the right place, their brain is missing in action. But I get that most...
Isn't that what's happening to Starmer now, though? He's apparently a good person who's being forced to do bad things because of the public.
People are not actually partisan at all. They just want to vote for improvements. I get that of those who are partisan, many have a choice of voting for their preferred party and actually increasing the chances of getting their worst option, or voting pragmatically to stop the worst option by voting for someone they don't really approve of. It's like, it's unfair. Which do you do? Do you vote for the candidate that most appeals to you, that most represents you? They have no chance. What you'll get is the one that least represents you. Or do you vote?
That's not always true. That's a bit of a straw man as well. If for example you vote Labour in a seat where it's a Tory Lib Dem marginal and the Lib Dems win, it doesn't always mean you're not going to get the candidate. You're going to get the candidate who least represents you. In that case, the candidate who would least represent you would be UKIP anyways, because they're also or the Reform UK Party. Maybe I'm the one being unfair. I don't know. Am I nitpicking? It feels like I am a bit.
Incredibly, the one that's best aligned, but you don't like them either. They're just the lesser of two evils for you. You're just accepting the least bad option. It stinks. And it's why we should change our system of elections. But no system is perfect.
Again, your boy Starmer doesn't support PR. So, I don't know, bruv.
System guarantees that someone can vote for their preferred choice, because no political party can please you entirely. Even if we had PR, and I'll be throwing my weight behind that, political parties will still not align with you. No matter the electoral system, if a party wants to even have a seat at the table of government, they're going to need millions of people voting for them. Anyone ever been part of a committee? If so, you will know that you cannot even get a dozen people.
I don't care if he's got a physics degree. It's not going to help him here. Like flexing. That's like if I went into a carpentry. If I tried to do carpentry, I said I've got a politics degree. They're going to laugh me out of the building. Having a physics degree does not help you here.
People to agree on something controversial. You always need to compromise for any difficult decision to be made. Well, how much more impossible is it to align with millions of people who are not even discussing it directly with you? It's never happening. Democracy, no matter the system used, is never a choice of what you want. What you want is never on offer, because what you want is different to what the other 30 million voters want. It's not what you want, it's what you least oppose.
It's not even that true either. It's about finding common ideals with those people. I think some sort of commonality. That's what political parties want to do. Find a common thread with those people in order to appeal to them. The vast majority of them. If you say like we want an NHS that's free at the point of use and things like that, I think that would resonate with a lot of people. It doesn't like. If I said that, I reckon you'd probably get the majority of the country to agree with you on that one. So it's not always about going against the one you least oppose. It's about trying to find common threads, and that's what political parties should really be pushing. Common threads that push, good ideals, in my opinion.
It's just that if we had a system which had more respect for your vote, there's a wider selection of what you least oppose. With our first past the post system, in the vast majority of constituencies, you have a realistic choice of two. If you vote for anyone else, it's like you're spoiling your ballot. It's better than not voting at all. At least you're counting as voting. But you may as well have spoiled your ballot. There are some constituencies which can generally be a three-horse race, but they're so few in number, really not worth mentioning in the context of forming a government. With PR, you would always have a choice of more than two, maybe half a dozen, but certainly more than two. You'd have more choice. But you still wouldn't have the choice of exactly what you want.
The problem is, I don't think anyone's really arguing for getting a party, unless you're very politically naive or you run the party. No one's arguing for a party that represents exactly what you want. I think you want at least 3 to 4 good policies where you think that would actually change my life, or I think these are very positive things for the country. I think that's what most reasonable people would want, I believe. At least that's what I want. Maybe I'm projecting. If Labour said, we've got 4 or 5 really good policies that are really going to change your life and the town you live in and blah, 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 then I'd be a lot more positive towards them. Whereas now they're just like, we had all of these great policies, we're not going to do them now. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. That's very, that makes me really want to vote for you.
The party or independent candidate you vote for will still have policies that you think are suboptimal at best if they have any realistic chance of winning. And you may think they're regressive, but you'll vote.
The people asked me in the comments and the poll. Unfortunately, the people requested it, and so I put it to a poll, and the people decided. So, unfortunately, this is the route I've gone down, and I've depressed myself further.
For them, because on the balance of their offer, it's the best you can realistically get. The problem is that some people come at their voting decision backwards. They see the obvious least bad option for them, but unhappy that it's good enough, effectively voting in the obvious worst option. They don't do this by literally voting for the worst option, but by voting for a candidate whom they think is more closely aligned with their beliefs, But a vote spent on an also ran when it might have been spent on the least bad credible option is a boost for the worst option. It's an unpleasant
he's just annoyed about this video. That's what's going on. I put it to a poll. The people decided yes.
situation for
16 people voted. Half of them voted yes. So we are where we are.
partisan people to be in. It's partly why what I want is for there to be clear alignment between the public's and Labour's interest for electoral reform during the next period in government. I don't want to be waiting a long time on this.
Again, if Labour wanted to push for electoral reform, they should be setting the table now rather than waiting for another 5 years. And if you genuinely wanted this, surely this is something you should be pushing for, and pushing for Labour to start doing now to talk about electoral reform, given the fact that I think the majority of the country actually would back electoral reform. It's just a case of convincing them that your version of electoral reform is the right version. That's the next step.
If we reform the electoral system, obviously it has to be very clearly in the public's perceived interest in order to win popular support. But it has to be in Labour's interests, and for them to see it as in their interest, because they have to be the vehicle that delivers it. Labour are interested in changing the system just to give more representation.
Again, that's not even really true, that Labour have to be the vehicle to deliver it. I mean, the closest we came to getting a proportional representation system wasn't through Labour, it was actually through the coalition government, the Lib Dems and the Tories. So again, that point, again, it's not really true.
To the Lib Dems and Greens. My argument is it is the only way to preserve their upcoming reforms, but that argument has to be made in a way which convinces the leadership. But in the meantime, if people are flexible about where their vote goes, as many are, then it really is a case of weighing up your realistic options. Politics isn't about making a utopia. It's not going to happen. This is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people will look at a party and go, I agree with 98% of their policies. Oh, but there's those few that I don't, so I'm not going to vote for them.
I mean, yeah, some people are like that. Some people just don't like certain political parties. They won't vote for them. That's the other thing. Do the vast majority? I don't think the vast majority of people even know 98% of a party's policies. Anyways, they might see the few that they don't like and go no further from there. But I just don't think what he's making makes sense. You're talking about people that would be incredibly politically aware to have read a full manifesto and say, I like 90% of these, but not these. Also, when did he insult Finland? Why did you ask the question of whether or not to analyse one of the videos out of interest? Because people kept commenting, like, have you seen Phil's newest video? So I was like, no, I haven't. And I said, is it worth watching? And they said yes. Does that answer your question?
No country in the world just works perfectly. There's the happiest countries in the world. Their political systems are representative, surprise, surprise. Their populations are generally well informed. There are still cock-ups. There are still injustices. Politics is about making things either better.
I mean, yeah, but, if you compare us to, like, Sweden and Finland, I would rather be Sweden and Finland. So, there are still cock-ups wherever. That's fair, but, a system made by humans and run by humans is always going to be imperfect, but I would rather have that better system than the one we have now. I would rather have those, closer to that, those politicians than we have now. I know there are problems in the Nordic countries. They have racism issues and other things. But, when you look at the vast majority of the good that they have, I would rather have that, I'll be honest.
Better than they are right now, or worse than they are right now. When people decide where to put their tick on the ballot paper, that is the decision.
Do people watch at this speed? Like, does no one, go to 1.25? Does this is the speed people watch at? Like, I know if English is second language, I'd get why, I wouldn't be able to watch or listen to someone speak Bengali at 1.25 speed. But, yeah.
To be made. None of us have the choice to make everything great. Some of us might think we'd make everything great if only we were put in charge, but people that...
No, that's me for real. I 100% believe that.
Think like that, surprise, surprise, are never put in charge. Because unless you have a loyal army capable of taking over the country, you will never have that choice.
All right, guys, I need a loyal army to help me take over the country. I need to know if you guys are going to be in the trenches with me.
Even then, it could be argued that you would do more harm than good by literally imposing martial law on the country.
1.25 speed is the golden speed, I think.
You will be happy, or it's the firing squad in the morning, has never really worked as a system of government.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually that true, to be honest with you. I think there are certain countries that have used that method and survived for a while, so... A good system, being a good system for the people or a good system for the government, I don't know.
So we don't have the choice to make things great. We only have the choice to make things better.
I mean, we do have the choice to make things great if Labour were actually willing to make things great. That's the thing. Like, this idea that Labour can only make things slightly better is nonsense. Is absolute nonsense. We are, for the most part, I know we are economically not doing well, but we do have choices that we can make. We can use windfall taxes. We can increase taxes on the rich and other things like that and redistribute that money. We can make things a lot better. Not slightly better, a lot better. And him kind of saying accept your thin gruel is just kind of embarrassing, I think. Hope you don't use 1.25 speed for me, because I would say I speak quite fast.
But some people, as the saying goes, tend to make the good the enemy of the great and end up playing handmaiden
It's not even the saying, it's the good, the enemy, the perfect.
to the worst. But there we are. Those are
Again, maybe if your boy kind of inspired people a bit more, maybe they would be a bit more enthusiastic about voting for him, instead of you kind of flogging a guy who has minus 10 riz. I don't know. Just give me a second. I'm just going to open the door for my cat. My normal speed is 1.25. You are not wrong. I'm a fast walker. Ben Shapiro. I had to let out my cat quickly. 1.5, man. I was at 2x speed, to be fair. I thought that was a cat outside my place. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll leave that. Yeah. Sorry. I was going to discuss just briefly the thing that did kind of make me feel a bit down this week, and it's going to sound a bit alien to some people, but given that we started the chat off with politics and with football, I should be able to get away with it. So this is my boy Steve from Gamers Nexus. Steve did an expose on Linus Tech Tips, and this is where I felt uneasy this week, because this is brutal. And after speaking to my friend about it, because we're nerds, I wonder if it was personal, because he does start the video off with this.
Clip from an LTT lab tour got a lot of attention online.
The difference between us and somebody like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed is we test new components, new tests every time.
And then hardware.
And so I felt like maybe it was a bit personal, or maybe he was the guy saying, you're claiming you're better than us when you're not, and him saying, well, I'm about to take you out. It made me feel uneasy, him doing a big expose on someone who I guess he's been on camera with. Maybe they're friends, maybe they're not. But yeah, it just made me feel quite uneasy. Just seeing like a guy you like attack another guy you like, I guess. And so that made me feel a bit uneasy. So there was that, and Linus's reaction to it was awful. But it just made me wonder, if I criticize another person on YouTube, because this is creating a big kind of hate mob. Not what I've done, but what Steve has done. It's created like a big kind of hate mob against Linus, and I don't think that's Steve's fault. I think this was just the catalyst for it. But it wouldn't sit right with me if I did a video on someone, and people use that video as an opportunity to bash that person. It wouldn't sit right with me. Linus's response was really bad. But yeah, it kind of made me feel a bit uneasy about the direction the channel's going in. I guess, I have criticized other YouTubers, and I'll probably continue to do it, but I guess if the backlash was like this, if it was a situation where a lot of people watched the video and decided to go after that person, I don't know how I'd feel about it, especially given the kind of illiteracy around people's various responses towards Linus and towards Steve, I guess. I think it's difficult because sometimes, yeah, it is. Sometimes it's hard to know when it's warranted. Sometimes like even when I did, so I've done a few on Phil, and they felt like they were warranted each time. But I feel like if it got the reaction. MR as in the majority report. Yeah, I have my own issues with the majority report, to be fair, but I think TYT is significantly worse. But I feel like the problem is if you go down this road, then you're always nervous someone's going to come after you, and they might be substantive or they might not be. And I feel like I don't know if that's what I want, but at the same time, I feel like it's the right thing to do is to talk to each other and to say like, this video you did or these videos you did are not good. But it's like, should I just reach out behind closed doors and say what you did isn't great? And if I do that, then do I get anywhere? You know, in this kind of video here, you know, Steve mentions like he didn't have to reach out to Linus or to LMG for comment. He didn't have to do it because you know it's a big company and yeah, you know, you don't have to reach out to a big company for comment. I still think he should have done. So I don't know. You know, like it just depends on, and that's the thing that made me doubt, because like I said, I have been critical of a lot of people. You know, if you look at, you know, the video I've done here, which the production value isn't the best. I did have to had to trim it on YouTube because I made a mistake in it. Where is it? Where's my video? Yeah. What did I name it? You know, when I did this, oh, we're gonna play this Dante clip. Well, one sec.
The price to pay for power.
You know, and for me, it was, you know, I felt like this is a video I had to do, and I think. Yeah, I think they've gone too far. And I think what they've done is just increase the amount of apathy, increase the amount of apathy in the voter base. Tend to watch Jay's 2 cents. I don't think Jay's 2 cents is that great, to be honest. I don't. I think I'd always go to Gamers Nexus is the top G, but then, you know, this week's maybe not too sure anymore about him, because I feel like he should have reached out to Linus, but. Yeah, you know, makes me wonder, was this video the right thing to do? You know, the bits on Labour I'm not too concerned about, like, genuinely, because, you know, this is what I do. This is my day job. You know, it's not my day job anymore, but this is the thing I do. You know, I go after Labour. Even though Market 8, it should not be called Market 8. That's the Phil bit, and, you know, even the stuff on O'Brien. You know, was that the right thing to do? I don't know. Even now, you know, what did I achieve from doing this? Not a lot. You know, did it change any of them? No. Are they worse than they were? Yes. Bro's still pushing the single market nonsense. You've got O'Brien. Oh crap! I had an O'Brien clip I wanted to use. Why did I get rid of it? Bear with me 1 second. I think I remember why I got rid of it. It was about, like, him talking about, like, you know, the whole stuff about the Rejoin March and all these other things. I was going to cover it in a video, but I don't know why I didn't. Why I decided against it. But point being is like, yeah, I just didn't. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it didn't sit right with me this week. You know, the stuff with Linus and the stuff with Steve Burke or Gamers Nexus, and I don't know what to make of it, and I still don't. You know, it did feel personal, but Steve is a pro. He's been doing this for a while, so it makes me wonder. You know, was it personal attack? Because it felt it. But, you know, I feel like the videos that I've done against those people, you know, that those videos probably feel personal as well, you know. But, you know, at least Steve got somewhere with his video, which is Linus is taking, you know, LMG are taking a week off, and they're going to look at their processes and things like that. But, you know, what did, you know, when I did this, what did I get? You know, that was the, you know, what did I achieve from doing it? Is it still worth doing that type of content where I criticize other kind of media people? Is that worth it, or should I just criticize politicians? Or I don't know, because the journalism in this country is so garbage, so garbage. Honestly, it's awful. Yeah, O'Brien is just not, like, outside of Brexit. I don't know. Yeah, it's not just Steve. Honestly, it's the Madison stuff as well. That I felt sick reading what she wrote. I felt sick. I felt ill. That really didn't sit right with me as well. That one, you know, that HR meeting was so bad, so bad. The stuff that come out, you know, the way they kind of belittled that meeting around kind of an ex-colleague, it just that it didn't sit right with me at all. It's a very tech bro culture, it feels like. Especially as Linus is a guy who calls out other companies and corporations over their actions. You know, the fact that they fire a lot of people and things like that. You know, for him to kind of run his company the way he has, especially him kind of fretting over a few $100s in the context of a multi-million-dollar company, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, we've got some video topics I did want to discuss, like a lot. So yeah. There's a lot here, so yeah, I've just finished doing some videos, so I just want to listen to this clip. Some of these will be covered in like videos and stuff, but yeah, some of these I thought would be worth covering on stream as well, so we'll do that for a bit. And yeah, is it a foundation? No, LMG is Linus Media Group. It's a company. That's where it's all bundled into. It's not a foundation or anything. I'll arrive late at this stream, but your analysis of Phil piqued my interest more than usual. I shall watch the replay. Yeah, it's not going to be my best analysis. It's probably not going to be good at all, honestly, because it's me on the fly. I haven't even watched the video, to be honest. I didn't watch it before the stream. Honestly, because I knew what it's going to be about. It's kind of just because you don't get exactly what you want doesn't mean you shouldn't vote for Labour and blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, I can't be asked. I'm not voting for a guy who has no policies and no riz. I'm not going to do that. At least try and convince me that voting for you is a good idea. Not this, we're broke, so we have to continue all of these Tory policies, or not do anything really to rock the boat and all this kind of nonsense. Just painful. So yeah, let's have a listen to some of these clips and before my depression really kicks in.
It's interesting you talk about it being a priority. The Prime Minister sometimes refers to his plan. But inflation hasn't come down as a result of government action. It's come down because world oil prices have come down. It's come down because...
It's crap. Just watched it. Shock. I'm so surprised.
Global food...
You guys wait until I get that soundboard. I'll try and get it in a couple of months. You guys are not ready for the soundboard. I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. You're not ready for the soundboard.
Food prices are rising less fast. Can you name one aspect of the plan that has contributed to inflation coming down today?
Well, I certainly think if I was deciding as Chief Secretary with the Chancellor and the Prime Minister to borrow a lot more money or to spend a lot more money...
in the context of the government borrowing a lot of money for day-to-day spending anyways, I'm not one of those ones that, oh my God, look how much money the government's borrowing. I'm not one of those people, but they are borrowing a lot of money just for day-to-day operations.
It would have an effect
but that's
on
things
inflation.
You haven't done. Can you identify a single thing that you as government have done that have contributed to today's fall in inflation?
Nick, I can tell you, to hold to the budgets that we set out at the spending review in an inflationary environment when there are massive calls to spend money all the time is an active choice. And having a grip on public spending, and despite massive pressures to increase spending, which we have week in, week out,
it's just him saying like, oh, we haven't done anything, and we should be praised for that because had we done something, it would have gone all wrong and blah blah blah, and we should be rewarded for doing nothing effectively and using budgets and things that are outdated.
His Majesty's loyal opposition are going to spend a lot more, are going to borrow a lot more, although they don't like to face up to that. Those are
look, he borrowed £17 billion and he wasted it. This is Kemi Badenoch calling him out on this. Is the video going to play? Hey, come on, man. What's going on here? Oh, a donation towards the soundboard for anything you want. Actually, it's going to be an iPad that I'm going to buy. And basically, what I did was I watched a video on it, and you can connect it. You can connect it to the software I use, OBS, and you can use it as a soundboard. And I could use it to like read like manga and stuff on it. So definitely, no, Mithra, I really appreciate that. I'm gonna put that towards the soundboard fund, no doubt. Excited to get that. Hopefully I'll be able to get it next month. I'm not sure yet. There's a lot of stuff I want to buy. There's a Jack Atlas deck I want to get, and a few other things for the Master of Faster. And I want to get the theme done for the channel as well, but it's been delayed, unfortunately. But it can't be helped. But if I can get that done, I'll be so excited for it.
I know how to manage the economy.
When we both worked in the Treasury, myself and other ministers raised the issue of COVID loan fraud, and you dismissed us, and it has cost taxpayers £17 billion. Why didn't you take us seriously?
Well, that's absolutely not right.
Why
New
have we lost
powers, and
17
actually at this
billion?
point, but it's important.
Theo
But it's
Agnew,
important.
one of
We had 17 billion to spend here, but now there's no money in which to be rewarded for being essentially for killing the economy. And Sunak saying, quote, "I am hurting myself to help you," end quote. He's a bloody billionaire. His wife's a billionaire. Like, thanks Verty for the sticker, the super chat. I really appreciate it, mate. It will go. The stuff goes a long way. Honestly, it does help with the channel. I've upgraded my mic. The iPad's probably next, and hopefully at some point get a studio done, depending on kind of work and finances. This is the video that hurt my soul the most. I don't think I've ever been more hurt watching something on the internet than this.
This area was originally about 2 months ago all a pound zone, so every single bag was a pound. But then they all went up to like 125, and then now we've seen a further increase for newer stock, which is 135.
And is it going to go back to a pound?
No, it's definitely not going to go to a pound. I think this is going to be the new price point. This area was originally about...
So all of this stuff was a quid. Then it went up by 25%. Now it's gone up by 35%. And then, it went up by another 15 pence. My soul.
A further increase for newer stock, which is 135.
And is it going to go back to a pound?
No, it's definitely not going to go to a pound. I think this is going to be the new price point.
It just hurts my soul just watching that. And it's not the dude's fault, honestly. The nurse or doctor on Nick Ferrari's show poleaxed him. I've not seen that. If you've got if it's on Twitter or YouTube, let me know and I'll dig it out. If you got a name for it, I'll try and find it. Some Brexit stuff here, saying it all disappeared with Brexit. Craft beer boom ends as more than 100 UK firms go bust. So bust. A lot of these places, I think they're microbreweries. I don't know how many people they have. It's on LBC Chat. Do you know the name of the video? And I'll have a look for it. Trade barriers were compounded by COVID. New trade barriers were compounded by COVID and tax changes. So, yeah, this is down to Sunak changing the tax laws around alcohol. I think he did that, as because we left the EU, he could do it. He's made it worse. And these companies, I don't know if they employ a ton of people, but as far as I'm aware, I don't know much about craft beer, but it's more like they use seasonal stuff. I know my friend's obsessed with it. Like these kind of like craft ales and things like that, because they import them from all over the world. But 100 UK firms go bust. It's madness. There's another one here. Grimsby voted for Brexit. Once Europe's biggest fishing port, voted 70% for Brexit, but now voters say Brexit rhetoric and broken promises. The fishing industry in the UK is smaller than the lawnmower industry, says Patrick Salmon. No one gives a toss, really. So, I'm going to show you this place was the biggest fishing port in Europe. All of Europe, and now it's a ghost town. God damn. When they said they'd be world beating, clearly that is not the case. I wanted to touch on this, some weird polling that I saw. So Luke Tyrrell suggested, this is where you get strawmans. So he goes, it's sometimes suggested a more left-wing leader would be further ahead than Starmer. Not if that Labour leader was Jeremy Corbyn. There's your key. Jeremy Corbyn was deeply, deeply unpopular with the electorate. It doesn't matter what his policies would have been. He was deeply unpopular. So regardless, of course, Corbyn. If you say who would you vote for, Corbyn or Starmer, people are going to pick Starmer. So this argument is one of the biggest straw man arguments I've ever seen in my life. Genuinely, just embarrassing. Like someone spent money to commission this poll, which was absolutely pointless. I wonder if it's Starmer who commissioned this poll. This is the most embarrassing use of data I've ever seen. Scottish salmon is too expensive now. In France, I buy salmon from Norway. The Nord's profiting again. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I've heard some people have said they just can't get Scottish salmon anymore, so they buy Nordic salmon. I think. Rishi Sunak's confronted by Junior. Oh, I've covered that one. Yeah, it's the Sunak one. Yeah, I've covered it. He tries to blame the strikes, and then she's like, "It's not down to the strikes. It's because of your bad policies." I've seen that one. That one's really good. It's on the channel. It's like a 18-minute video of Sunak getting pieced up by the public. Yeah, that was fun. That whole call-in was so much fun. Sunak confronted by junior doctors. Yeah, I've reacted to that one. I'm pretty sure. Prices are shooting up so fast in the supermarkets that people question the prices all the time, thinking it's a mistake. Honestly, it's nuts. I've seen some of the price increases, and it drives me mad. This one's quite an interesting one from Priti Patel, saying, "We are not getting straightforward answers from the Home Office. Government departments and ministers must be held to account for the decisions they make. It doesn't give me confidence in Sunak's national policy approach. Stopping the boats is not simple. And obviously, you know, it's not surprising she's gone with this last line, because obviously she was, you know, Home Secretary, and she couldn't do it. She talked tough the whole time, had no chance, because again, you can't. It's not illegal to claim asylum. They had no chance in doing this, and so I think what she's doing here is setting herself up to be to run in the leadership contest after Sunak goes. That's what this feels like. She's trying to set herself up for it. But then she also said something about like Labour trying to take us straight back into the UK or something like that. She's a gaffe machine, honestly. She's terrible. She's hilarious. She's unintentionally hilarious. When she tried to read out a load of numbers and she didn't read them out properly, that was probably one of my favourite videos. Doing, you know, pretty, what do the numbers mean? It's such a classic video. Let me see if I can find it. It's classic, honestly. Can't find it. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Glorious stuff.
Carried out across the UK.
Oh, the audio is terrible. And this is before I had the silent mouse. This is the thumbnail I made. Yeah, here it is.
Monitoring and testing program.
You guys ready for this? Yeah.
That as of 9 a.m. today.
9 a.m. This was a few days ago.
There have been 300,000.
300,000. 34.
974.
974
tests carried out across the UK.
Wait, say that again, please.
Today, 9 a.m. today.
Okay.
There have been 300,034. 974,000 tests carried out across the UK, excluding Northern Ireland.
What? What was that? So we've got a bit of a transcript here. So 300,034, 974,000 tests. So I'm not good at reading numbers out when they're words like this. And I asked my brother who he got an A in maths, and he couldn't figure out either. So then I asked my sister, who's also fairly intelligent. She had no idea as well. So Twitter couldn't figure it out. So I'll ask you again. I'll play this again for you.
9 a.m. today, there have been 300,034, 974,000 tests carried out.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Braverman recently tried to take credit for the crime numbers by excluding fraud. That was pretty funny. Let's see. Oh yes, Angela Rayner getting absolutely beaten up in the press. Oh, sorry, by the SNP, saying Labour waters down pledges to strengthen workers' rights, and you got Stephen Flynn, leader of the SNP down in England, or in Westminster, saying, "I'm just about old enough to remember Angela Rayner promising a new deal for workers in Scotland 12 hours ago." Fatal. And then you got, this is the quote from Rayner saying workers have been left out in the cold. And you've got Hamza Yousaf saying, I would remind Angela Rayner that we have engaged constructively with trade unions. That is why we haven't had any NHS strikes in Scotland in stark comparison to Labour-run Wales. And again, it's a bit of an unfair one, I think, because I think actually they both would have their allocation from the Tories by the Barnett formula and the other one. So actually, no, I was going to criticise him there, but I don't think that's that unfair statement to make. This from Julian Rubinstein, I think that's how you pronounce his name, one of the guys that actually got me into politics with his hit show The Revenue Should Be Televised, which is tragic the BBC aren't replaying it because it's so good. It's one of the best, it's the best political satire I've ever seen.
The Labour Party in under 60 seconds. Keir Starmer hasn't just thrown the baby out with the bathwater, he's literally moved the Overton window of the left to the right.
Yeah, Labour have done that consistently. You know, Starmer offered great things when he was running to be leader, and it's all gone. It's all going now. Each one kind of breaking apart.
He sided with Big Capital over Labour, told strikers that they're lunatics and he won't support them.
I didn't know he called strikers lunatics. I've not heard that. I'd need the source on that one.
Just Stop Oil that what they're doing is outrageous and basically in many ways become Tory light. Now, you can't in any way say that they're just as bad as the Tories because they just haven't had 13 years of government to prove it.
That's an oof. That's an oof from me because I agree with him there.
And many believe that actually this is an election tactic. But when someone makes a whole load of promises and then breaks all of them before they've even been elected, it's not the best sign that they're going to stick to their word. The bottom line is, the worst thing about the Labour Party is that there are no new ideas, no hope, no huge vaulting campaign pledges that really make you think, goodness, I'd love to vote for them because they're going to save the future. But let's be honest, they're still better than those Tory pricks.
Love the smile at the end. And, like I've said before, the argument that we have no money, blah, it's nonsense. Like, the country's debt to GDP is about 100%, right? Post World War II, it was 200%. And, Clement Attlee still got the NHS bill. It wasn't as perfect as he wanted it to be, but he still managed to do it, despite the fact that we're in massive amounts of debt. The argument we don't have the money is just simply untrue. No justice in this one. No justice. Probably enjoy this. But yeah, honestly, 100% I agree with him. It's just it's a sad state of affairs, I'll be honest. But Johnny Rubinstein just 100% correct. This some university professor.
It's been quick.
So it's like I think he's a vice chairman. I can't remember who he is. Him getting absolutely rinsed.
Criticism of vice chancellors' salaries. Some are on 400,000, 500,000.
So the one who ran my university, which he did not do a good job, he was on 250,000, I think, and he had a lot of extras as well for being vice chancellor. I think he got like free accommodation and stuff.
700,000, and the accusation from academics and university staff is those vice chancellors are out of touch. They're on these huge salaries, and yet they're having another real terms pay cut offered to them after 25% real terms pay cut adjusted for inflation since 2009. It's been criticism of vice chancellor.
Yeah, great work from Victoria Derbyshire.
A debt is like a bank overdraft.
So he's talking about why students should be concerned about student debt.
It's money that students have to pay. It is not like the so-called debt is not like a credit card debt or an overdraft or a mortgage. What it says is if you are earning above £25,000 a year, through income tax, you'll pay an extra 9% rate. So if you're earning £35,000 a year, you'll be paying about, which is £3,000 a month, you'll be paying about 75 to 80.
Do you know what will be incredible? Your marginal tax rate will be higher potentially than Rishi Sunak's, who's a billionaire.
£50 a month.
Okay.
This is not like the American debt.
Sure. I want to hear from Charlie because I promised him. Then Joe, then Eden.
It's easy for you to sit and lecture somebody when you didn't have to go through the exact system that she's talking to you about. And I think what you should do, as someone who helped introduce the system that Chloe is saying is putting working class people off studying, is listen to her, not lecture her about an experience.
The argument that you should be okay with going into debt because of the type of debt is not true, because they do factor it in when you get a mortgage and things like that, especially when, as kind of I think she's the trade union rep points out, he didn't have to go into debt to go to university. So for someone who went to university debt free to lecture us on why we should be okay with a ridiculous amount of debt is just stupid. Let's see, tax the rich. Imagine if the Tories said we should raise tax by 9%. If they did that, they'd probably win the election, honestly. Green transition will take, at the current rate, 475 years. Germany already in 52%. Spain is going 50%. See what else. Sunak wasted 11 billion for failing to insure against interest rate rises as Chancellor. Not one Tory have done something worthwhile. That's true. The only thing they've done worthwhile is probably gay marriage. Nonetheless, I will still be voting tactically to get the Tories out. If that means voting Labour, so be it. Another 5 years, the Tories will be far worse than breathing space under Labour. I mean, that is true, but again, we don't want Labour to learn the wrong lessons from any potential election victory, which is my fear. I've spoken to my local Labour candidate. I was not impressed. When I did speak to her, she took a while to reply, which is fine. But I sent her more emails asking, how are you actually going to achieve these goals, and she didn't reply. So it was a bit pathetic in my opinion. I will speak to the local Lib Dem geezer. I'll see what he has to say. He might be able to win my vote over. I don't know. I'll have to see what bro has to say. Honestly, I'll probably reach out to him at some point. But, you vote how you want to. If you want to tactically vote, go for it. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. The UK already has the highest tax burden in the last 50 years. How many problems did you solve? I mean, to be fair, the problem is, it's not necessarily the tax burden. It's the fact that that tax burden is being put on kind of middle and lower earners rather than on the rich. That's the problem. Okay, this I found very interesting. So former Scottish Labour leader Kezia Dugdale has said she can't argue for the union like she did in 2014, saying, quote, "If you're presented with the binary choice of an independent Scotland in a progressive Europe or little Boris Brexit Britain, I know where my cards would fall down," end quote. And this is a person who was a part of Labour, who was staunchly part of the union, saying basically they can't back it anymore. Nuts. Honestly, it doesn't. It's just crazy. Like the situation's gone so bad that you have former Labour politicians saying they can't back the union in its current state. It's just that's how toxic the situation has gotten in this country. That's how bad it is. Or should I say, not in this country, in this union. It's just the stuff. It's the stuff of nightmares. I'll be honest. I can't believe this happened. The Education Secretary saying getting educated on how maths works is pretty good.
That you've been putting more money over the last few years. You've had to because there's been more students. So actually, if you do it per student, it's no higher than the levels before 2010. And that a lot of fact-check websites are...
If you've got a good local candidate, then go for it. Honestly, I'm not gonna tell you how to vote, but yeah, like I said, I'm not impressed with my local Labour candidate, so it's going to make me a bit more difficult to convince me. Because at the end of the day, you don't get given votes. You have to earn them. You have to earn the votes, and so if Labour choose not to earn my vote, then that's on them. If they don't come around door knocking, probably for the best, honestly. But yeah, if the Lib Dems put in, the Lib Dems are very good at knocking on doors and things like that. If they convince me to vote for them, then they've convinced me. It's what am I supposed to do at that point?
Saying that, so make that very clear.
Actually, I do have a great deal of... I look at these figures, and I'm a businesswoman by training, so I look at these figures in great detail. Next year, we'll be spending nearly £60 billion on our education system, and that is nearly £3 billion...
Oh, I'm a businesswoman. Oh, I know statistics. Oh.
...more per year than when I first got the job, which was only in October 2025.
So we're seeing an increase in students, though, aren't we? We're seeing an increase in students. So, yes, you might be putting more money in, but that's because we're also seeing an increase of students. So it's not necessarily more money. It's the same money, but just for more an increased number of students.
Well, there's different budgets that look at the demographics, which is one aspect of it, the new buildings we need, which is another aspect of it. But the money that we've increased in recent years has been for pay rises and also for the inflation.
For the pay rises, they've told the schools to find it from their own budgets. They're not going to give new money for the pay rises. So what she's talking is nonsense.
Pressures and also last year's pay rises. But £60 billion, no matter which way you measure it, back to per pupil, back in real terms increases, no matter which way you measure it, is more than we've ever spent on our schools in history.
60 billion, again, it's all about per capita spending. That's the key. And it doesn't sound like she's increased per capita spending, so it's a swing and a miss.
In terms of some of the rhetoric and some of the ways that ministers, including the Prime Minister, have been talking about two things. Number one, today we're seeing the Education Secretary and the Prime Minister basically saying that, congratulations on your results, but ultimately these things don't matter very much in the long run in terms of A-levels. The Education Secretary today saying, people won't ask you about them in 10 years' time and so on. And also...
Imagine saying to people won't ask you about your grades in 10 years' time, which is absolute nonsense, because it's on your goddamn CV. For you to apply somewhere, they're going to ask what grades did you get in school. Silly.
Something that the Prime Minister was talking about a couple of weeks ago, which he didn't use this phrase, but the media...
Maybe, Darren, she didn't deal with the books. Maybe someone else dealt with it. Maybe she had an accountant.
You wrote it up about concern around Mickey Mouse degrees that ultimately aren't worth very much to individual students. What's your reaction to those things?
So let's take them two separately, but briefly. Somebody once said to me, don't decry Mickey Mouse. It's a global brand worth several $1 billion. But
it's pretty funny.
The reality, the economy is changing. So we are offering degrees in subjects that a generation ago did not exist. Games design, pretty high-level computer programming, data science, health analytics. The world is changing, and degrees that might look slightly different to one generation have enormous credibility in the future economy, and we need to remember that. I'm pretty disappointed, to be honest, the Secretary of State chose today to say your exam results don't matter. You got hundreds of thousands of kids getting exam results after.
And yeah, it's a bit of a stupid statement. Also, the fact that what's the point of going to school then and education? Like, it's all right for rich people to say, "Oh, your grades don't matter," but in reality, they do.
The hard work.
If you want to, even if you want to get an apprenticeship, they will still check your grades.
It's not the time to say it. And the noise from a couple of weeks ago when the government talked at universities about rip-off degrees, the level of fees was set by government in 2012, by this government. If we're going to have a debate about the value and the price, about the relationship between the costs and benefits, let's have a serious conversation between government and the sector and society about what we want from our higher education system and how collectively we're going to pay for it.
It's really interesting. Like I said, the Vice Chancellor for Sheffield Hallam, he's right. The government did set the amount universities can charge. So if he's saying the degrees are a rip-off, then maybe he should make certain degrees cheaper. I don't know. The video that broke my soul. This will repeat. This is Labour on how they're going to reduce inflation. Should be fun.
Labour would be doing to bring inflation down faster.
Well, we have a plan for growing the economy in the long term, but we also have said that quite clearly we need to get people into work. So we have to challenge the NHS waiting list. That's why we had a workforce plan that would bring more doctors and nurses into the NHS and bring waiting lists down.
That one's fine. People that are on kind of long-term sick leave, getting them kind of, patched up and, so they can actually, live their lives normally. That one's fine. Honestly, that's a good point.
We've got to do something around the growth of the economy so that people can get good jobs. At the moment, under the Conservatives, we've had low growth, low pay and high taxes. So we've got to turn that around and ensure...
How are you going to do that, Chief? Any answers? You're going to tell us?
So that people can have a decent wage and that we can have people in decent jobs. And that's what our Green Prosperity Plan is all about, is creating those industries and jobs for the future that we so desperately...
We're going to all work in the green industry then. Great stuff.
...need in our economy, because if our growth plan at the moment, which has been completely stalled under the Conservatives, have led to high inflation and people's living standards declining, we've got to turn that around and we've got to pay for our public services, because we can't carry on the way things are, because all of our...
Again, I'd want to know the how rather than the what. How are you going to achieve these things rather than what you're going to do? I don't think it's great. This from O'Brien is embarrassing. I'll be honest. This is just, the guy who kind of portrayed himself as the straight shooter, who said like, I'm calling out Jeremy Corbyn for the good of whatever. He did it because I don't think he wanted to pay more in tax or whatever. Or he did it because of ego.
Quite a few people yesterday suggesting that the refugees on the Bibi Stockholm, or taken off the Bibi Stockholm, should be put back on and gassed. And that's not abnormal now. In fact, you reminded me yesterday that when we talk about what Keir...
A couple of people tweeted at him, maybe some text messages saying those refugees should die. And now he's taking that as, that's the state of the country, which I don't think is true.
Starmer has to do to get elected. We have to remember that he's trying to get elected in a country where people routinely put laughing emojis on stories about drowned refugees.
And James, mate, he's not going to win over those people who do that. He's not going to win over those voters. They're going to vote Tory or they're going to vote Reform. There's no way Starmer's going to win over those voters. Let's be honest now, buddy. The idea that Starmer's going to win based on their votes. Nah, bruv.
I think it's getting worse, but only through that very specific window. I see stuff that makes me wince, but then I remember that the person who's done it is literally trying to make me wince. Not me personally, although there are a few of those on social media, but just that's the reaction they want. They want the approval of fellow monsters or bigots or whatever word you prefer, homophobes, racists. But what they really thrive on, I think, is the disapproval of the decent. It's a sort of, I suppose, in a way, it's the social equivalent of Remainers' tears. You've got nothing to celebrate except the unhappiness of other people, and that's really probably the closest that the current Conservative Party under Rishi Sunak has got to an ideology. We just want to break things and hurt people. And our supporters will love it. They will celebrate. So what are we going to break next? European Convention on Human Rights. Brilliant. Get me the Daily Telegraph on the phone. We'll have an article tomorrow.
I mean, this is all fine what he's talking about here. He's talking about, the problem is he spends too much time on Twitter. I'll be honest. Him and Phil spend way too much time on Twitter. But the problem is, he's saying we have to remember that Starmer is trying to get elected into a country where people regularly post laughing emojis. Now, how many people actually do this? A couple hundred at most. They're not gonna flip an election. You're not gonna win an election based on a couple hundred people. Let's be honest, you might flip a couple of constituencies, but you're not going to win an election on this. So the point he's making here is so disingenuous, saying, well, you got to remember this country is an absolute cesspit, and Starmer needs to appeal to those people to win, because you don't want the Tories back in, do you now? So I think it's just a really. You think I'm nitpicking? Okay, let's go back over this. All right, let's go back over this.
Got picked up by quite a few people yesterday.
Hold
Picked up by quite on the Bibby Stockholm, or taken off the Bibby Stockholm. Should be put back on and gassed, and that's not abnormal now. In fact, you reminded me yesterday that when we talk about what Keir Starmer has to do,
I mean, what he's arguing here is there is a significant amount of people in this country who are happy to see kind of refugees get gassed or die effectively. And so, Starmer has to remember that he needs to appeal to these kinds of people in order to win.
Get elected. We have to remember that he's trying to get elected in a country where people routinely put laughing emojis on stories about drowned refugees.
He's giving the impression that we live in an extreme country where, this is normal. This, a lot of people are doing this. A lot of people don't care when. I don't think that's the case at all. And so he's trying to justify Starmer's rhetoric through that. I don't know. If you think I'm nitpicking, that's fine. But I genuinely don't think I am. I think what he's done is he spent too much time on Twitter, and too many people have too much time in their hands who keep texting in the show, honestly. This one I found a bit of a weird one.
There would be.
Is it sped up? Yeah, sped up.
You name it, it was going to happen. None of it has.
Where is it? Yeah.
That's the ultimate irony of Brexit. Therefore, I don't really see the point at the moment in.
Yeah, what O'Brien is arguing is the normalisation of fascistic genocidal attitudes. I don't think it's that normalised. I don't think it's as widespread as I think people make out. I'll be honest. The whole stop the boats thing that the Tories have pushed, the small boats week, that's got no one. That didn't resonate with anyone. They had a room full of conservatives in the in the question time audience and asked who supports the Rwanda scheme. No one supported the Rwanda scheme. Not a single hand went up in that room. So I don't think it's the problem is the internet amplifies these people. That's all it is. You should never normalise fashion. I think the internet amplifies these people, but when you look at the small boats week, it's been an absolute failure. And let's also be honest now. These people are not going to vote Labour. They're not going to vote Labour. They're going to vote Reform. The ones that want to see refugees get killed, they're going to vote Reform. There's no way Labour wins over those voters.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I was about to say I don't see the point in pushing for rejoin. I don't see the point in marching for rejoin. I don't see the point in polling.
So he's kind of saying you don't see the point of the rejoin march one. I think it's important for people to not give up on it. I think if it was a few months ago, maybe a year ago, I'd say protesting is pointless. But democracy doesn't end or begin at the ballot box. It doesn't end at the ballot box. It really begins there. Protesting and other things. I always believe like the Afghanistan, the anti-Iraq war protest, which was the biggest protest in the history of this country. I think it still is. Didn't achieve anything, and therefore protesting fails. By my own logic, then we shouldn't vote because we lost in 2010, we lost in 2015, lost in 2017, lost in 2019. Therefore, voting is pointless. So I think there's a point to it. I think it's important for people to remember, like, the country's not gone mad. There are still people who still want Britain to be a part of the EU, even though it's very unlikely to happen. And I think it kind of signals to the rest of Europe, like, we're not all lunatics here. Some of us are, maybe most of us are, but not all of us. The T virus has not spread throughout the country. There is still something that can be salvaged here. You say, I don't think it's normalised. These abhorrent views, whereas O'Brien is saying that the opposite from his point of view. Who is right? The way I'll put it is this, right? He says he's seen posts, people comment, laughing faces and all this stuff, right? Where do you see that stuff? It's on the internet. That's where you'll see it, and people might text it into him. But like I said, when they had that room full of Conservative voters, Conservative Party voters, and they asked those voters, right, do you support the Rwanda scheme? They said no, right? Do you think those same voters would say they would want those refugees to be gassed? Some of them probably would, because they're lunatics. Do I think the majority of them would? No. So, who is right here? What O'Brien is trying to do is justify what Starmer is doing. Like I asked, Skylar, have you watched that long piece I did? Is sanity the price to pay for power? Because if you look at what O'Brien is doing in that clip, he's trying to justify Starmer's position on refugees by saying, look, you've got to remember, this country's crazy. This country would be crazy. And so Starmer has to appeal to those people in order to win. That's what he's effectively saying in that clip. So honestly, if you haven't watched Is Sanity the Price to Pay for Power, probably some of my best work from an analysis point of view, I think, not from a production point of view. There's some oofs there, but if you haven't watched that video, I'd recommend it. It's probably one of my best pieces. Probably that one on why Britain can't rejoin the single market. Probably some of my best work. You should protest like they do in France. It won't help, but at least, oh yeah, hell yeah. The French protests are nuts. There was zero news about last year's protest. Yeah, you're not wrong. I want to talk about this. The EU rejected Rishi Sunak's desperate attempts to create a new... See, again, Politics UK put migrant when we know it's not true, it's about asylum seekers. A new return scheme. So Sunak tried it. The EU said no. Okay, this one's not relevant here. Did I have one more on this? I don't think I did. Yeah, no, there wasn't anything more I want to say on that point. But the government have pushed this, and Labour have pushed this idea as well, that they're going to get a return scheme with the EU, kind of similar to, I'm guessing the sorry, my brain's mode. Similar to kind of the Dublin 3 program, which ain't no way the UK is getting that. Ain't no way that's happening. I used to work in a golf hotel. There was a family friend of the owners who could trace their names back to 1066, served in World War II. It was difficult to know which side, though. You can't ask too many questions, You can't ask why there's so many Germans in... you can't ask why there were so many Germans in Argentina. There's certain questions... There's certain questions you can't answer. You can't ask. But, I did find... This from Labour actually did... I did find it quite good.
We saw, when the last Labour government was in Westminster and in Wales, we saw waiting lists coming down, and we saw almost all of the targets being met. And by the end of 2010, we saw very, very few people waiting more than a month or two for any treatment at all in Wales and across the United Kingdom. What we've seen in Wales recently is the fact that we have a Westminster government which sets the budget for spending on health in Wales, and that's caused considerable problems right across the United Kingdom. So yes, what we need, again, the lesson from the last Labour government, 1997 to 2010, is that when you have a Labour government in Westminster and there in Cardiff, then we can tackle these problems. What we have is dysfunction in Westminster, and that is infecting all core...
So what he's saying is effectively the funding comes from central government, and that's the problem. And so I think this is one of the things Labour should talk about, because when the Tories mention kind of the situation in Wales with the NHS in Wales not doing great, and then blaming Labour for that when that funding comes from central government, it's the same thing. The SNP have actually done a much better job with the Scottish NHS, a much better job, and it's functioning, I think, the best out of any of the healthcare services in the union. But at the end of the day, they are still hamstrung by money that comes from central government. They cannot. There's not much they can do to kind of improve the healthcare services. They do have things like free prescriptions, which is phenomenal, but they are still kind of capped to an extent. So, this argument of, kind of, even Hamza Yusuf used it. He goes, I'm not going to take lectures from, or, he's talking about the strike action in Wales, NHS Wales. Again, kind of, Scotland has a lot more devolved power than Wales, so it was a cheap shot. But to be fair, Labour took the first cheap shot, so it's not too surprising, but a cheap shot nonetheless. This from Steve Barclay. Steve Barclay was talking about it as well.
There's 4 times as many patients waiting over a year for treatment in Wales.
Shouldn't that be PFI Kyle, not Peter Kyle? Wait. What? What are you talking about, PFI Kyle? Rugby full-time, Ireland 29, England 10, yeah. Feels like that's going to be the result for the next few years, to be fair. What do you mean, PFI Kyle?
Compared to in England, and that's despite Keir Starmer saying that Wales is the blueprint
just stop you there for a moment, because the figures are
England.
actually collated in a different way, so that's not particularly relevant. And we also know that long waiting times are falling every month in Wales. They've actually more than halved in the last year.
No, people waiting more than 18 months in Wales. There's over 70,000 there. There's over 30,000 waiting more than 2 years.
They include more referrals in their statistics than England does, so they're not really comparable figures, are they?
Well, yes, they are, and I think people can see.
You just told you can't compare them because they're kind of collected differently. He's like, but you can compare them, and you're like, bro, like maybe Rishi was right. Maybe you need to go back and do maths. Maybe you got an extra 2 years of maths you need to do, because clearly you do not understand statistics, or as Big Shaq would say, statistics. But yeah, this is yeah. Oh, Labour funding of NHS was mainly done through... Yes, that is true, to be fair. The PFI... actually, I don't know if it's most of the funding, but the PFI contracts have been an absolute disaster. One of the stupid things the Labour Party will ever do. Probably the Iraq War would be the most stupid thing the Labour Party has done. But yeah, I did see... Excuse me. Oh, shit. I did see probably the funniest tweet I've seen. It's from the Spectator, apparently, saying the government is ready to attack Labour after the summer as they believe Rishi Sunak has made the Tories likeable. He says, quote, "It took Labour 4 years to get to the point where they were ready to focus on attacking us. It's taken us 8 months," end quote. And, bruh, like, what the hell? What? Who is saying this? Let's see if we can find... Oh, shoot, almost dropped my drink. Oh, that would have been bad. Second, I would have spilled juice on my keyboard. John Wundy, right, we're going to go into the cesspit. We're going to go into the stomach of hell. Wait, this is in the Independent? Hold up. Let me just sort this out quickly. Just bear with me one second. I thought it was in the Spectator. Did he say the Spectator? She works for both the Spectator and the iPaper. That's a bit weird. Does anyone think that's a bit weird? I've never heard of someone working for like two papers that are on the opposite end of the political spectrum. Has anyone else heard of that? Oh, I was trying to find a quote, but that's mean. I don't know. To be fair, if I Google it, will it come up if I Google it? It's gonna paywall me, isn't it? You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Anyway, I was trying to find a quote on that one, but it didn't really work out. But anyways, I've run out of topics to kind of discuss. I don't know if there was anything more that I wanted in the timeline. I can see Man United are losing as well, so that's gonna hurt. The worst thing is I think they'll play the same time as like I stream. Because back in the Champions League, we're still losing. God damn! Imagine losing to Tottenham. Imagine losing to Tottenham. Honestly. Was there anything else? I did see. Was this video interesting? This was pretty funny.
Now, not having to wear the headdress, and it is starting to change. And they think that is because of things like football, and they feel like they're being accepted in Western culture. So they're
about women being able to drive in Saudi Arabia. The ones. Thanks, Verti, for the super chat. The ones who kind of led the movement on women driving. I think they were arrested.
Sort of being able to be that way, but look, it's small steps.
They did execute 196 people.
It's small steps. Yeah, I mean, it's hideous. It's absolutely hideous. But.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I know Adil Ray got really annoyed by this because he posted, Sal, this wasn't the full context, and you posted it unfairly, but I don't think using the out of context argument was that great, to be honest. Fair play for Ava there as well. That was a pretty good response. More stuff about Linus, about the Madison accusations. I mean, yeah, it's not great, honestly. This one.
You remain committed to scrapping them in
They're
your first
all
term?
pledges, Andrew. So the answer to these questions is yes.
So university tuition fees being scrapped will be in a Starmer manifesto?
Yes, that's why it's
the
a
next
pledge.
election.
Okay.
As things stand, you are no longer promising that you would get rid of tuition fees. That's clear from what you've said.
No, we're looking at the options, Laura.
There's no easy way to say this. We made a pledge, we didn't stick to it, and for that I am sorry.
Yeah, it's classic there. That is, just a lot of Labour breaking pledges. I did see this one. This tweet made me laugh, actually. So you had, Prem Sicker, who follows me on Twitter, shouts out to Prem, saying, another Starmer pledge gone, Labour waters down plans to strengthen workers' rights. And this is something we've kind of discussed a bit on stream. This guy goes saying, it is a short-term tactic to ward off Tory attacks, to look like the Tories, to then reverse the short-term plays for true Labour objectives. He's saying, is it a plan? Sorry, he's saying, is it a short-term ploy to say we're like the Tories, but we're competent, and then to say to kind of change completely and be like, no, actually we're not like the Tories. We're actually what like Labour were. There's some stuff on Greenwood. I didn't want to discuss it because that hurts. Honestly, that is yeah. For United to let Greenwood potentially play again is genuinely stupid. Let's see, was there anything of interest I wanted to cover? It's more of the universities just getting absolutely battered. Sunak talking about how he's going to increase the amount of free childcare you can get up to 30 hours when people work more than 30 hours a week if you work full time. I work 37 hours and it kills me every week. So yeah, again, it's a bit stupid. Just give people up to 37 hours. It makes sense. I don't think there's much more I wanted to discuss. Was there anything else you guys wanted to discuss? I'll put the live chat up for next week. Just bear with me 1 second. This picture's so funny. The worst is I can't just copy paste the picture to the next stream. But yeah, so I guess we're up to live chat 14 then. Was there any questions on here? I just want to Phil's. Well, I've already sorted that one out. So I'll put live chat 14 here. Oh, why is it coming weird? We'll roll with it. Live chat 14. Is it going to post weird? Oh, it posted normal. Nice. So that's the one for live chat 14. So if you've got any questions, let me know. Brilliant Channel 4 piece on Boris and Lebedev. Is it? Okay. Maybe I'll try and have a look for that. About a week ago. Alright, let's have a look. If it's on YouTube, I can find it. Channel 4. Boris. Whoops. Lebedev. Spelling is hard. Is it this one here, about 2 weeks ago? Let's see, how long is this? It's 48 minutes, is it this one? The Russian influence? Right, alright. I'll try and give that a watch at some point then. Some people would watch this and still think that's a pretty funny comment, to be fair. Alright, I'll probably try and watch this at some point to see how free I am. Maybe I'll watch it like when I'm at work or something. 20 people still here, thanks for that. We've been going for about an hour, almost an hour and a half. I don't want to talk too much about that dude's content, so I might leave him for a while. It is a bit frustrating when people push nonsense arguments and use disingenuous arguments as well. But I don't want to constantly talk about him on stream. It gets a bit stale, to be honest. So if he has any big howlers over the next few, if he has any big howlers, then I'll probably talk about it a bit more. That's the one. It was lawyered to within an inch of its life, though there was only so much you can say in public about Boris Johnson. Oh, I see. What did Boris Johnson try and get it taken down? That's interesting. Must be worth a watch then if the lawyers got involved. I'm just gonna wait, just see if anyone's got any comment on that point. And yeah. See, True Geordie destroys Harry Maguire. Don't really care. Some people putting up interesting videos that I do want to watch at some point. There's quite a few good channels, to be honest. I found out about the coup in Niger through bloody YouTube videos. Oh yeah, there was one other thing actually. I saw the US is allowing F-16 planes to get transferred to Ukraine. That's quite interesting. So that's gonna be interesting to see how Russia kind of deals with that. Given the F-16s are pretty old, if they can deal with the Soviets, then that should be quite a game changer potentially for the Ukrainians. What have I got here? Oh, upload failed. Oh, you hate to see it. The problem with like some of these videos are like if I use certain types of grammar, or grammar, or what's that other word, man? Apostrophes. It hates apostrophes for some reason. My editing software hates them. Doesn't auto upload them. 500 billion. Damn. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think of the stream. If you are one of those people who watch it back, let me know what your thoughts are. It's a bit of a rocky start, I know. Apologies for that, but I think we did all right. Yeah, I'll enjoy the rest of my my weekend, hopefully, and I'll be back probably next Saturday, as long as I don't, something doesn't come up. I should be live again next Saturday. Yeah, thanks for everyone staying for so long. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I'll catch you all. Seriously, the Soviets haven't existed for 30 years. What did I say? The Soviets? Soviet Union. The Soviet reunion. But anyways, I'll catch you guys next Saturday. Bye bye. I need my music, man. I need some outro music. I did. That's my bad. I'll rewatch. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, let me know what you think when you rewatch it. The start isn't the greatest, but it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and had a strong finish, I think. But I'll catch you guys next week. Bye bye.